We all know that magic mushrooms have this beautiful ability to open up our minds and expand our consciousness and help us heal all of these deep-rooted issues that we have inside us. But I think many people don't really know to what extent and how this actually works. So in this video, I want to tell you about my own journey using psilocybin mushrooms. When I was around 19 years old, 20 years old, this is when I really started to use them a lot and get more into the whole process of opening up my mind and digging into it and really seeing what's in there, because during this time of my life, I was not a happy person. So I was depressed, I was anxious, I was self-harming, and my life just sucked. But what's worse than just having a shitty life is not knowing why it's shitty, not knowing why I couldn't actually just be normal, why I couldn't have a normal life where, everyone else just seemed to be happy. Everything seemed so simple to so many people. But for me, I was always on the outskirts. I was shy, I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew that something was wrong just because I wasn't happy. I wasn't living up to the person that I knew I could be on some level of my consciousness. It wasn't until I started using psychedelics when I actually started to gain some sort of traction on my own development, on my own healing, on my own growth. And this opened a whole world of possibilities, because before that, I didn't even know that there was a problem with me. I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I didn't have any insights or solutions to actually figure it out. So when I started experimenting with psychedelics, at one stage of my life, I really started to get pretty deeply involved in them. So I took LSD quite a lot, I started smoking DMT quite a lot, and of course I was using magic mushrooms at the time as well, just as a way to explore my own consciousness and figure out what was going on. Because the thing about this is that I felt actually quite good when I took psychedelics, because in my opinion or my perspective at the time, nothing was worse than where I actually was. So when I could take a lot of psychedelics and go into these crazy, extraordinary, weird, beautiful places, even if it felt weird and I didn't know where I was or what was happening, this was better than being back in reality. So I'm not gonna lie, I started using psychedelics as a way to escape my reality, not as a way of actually going into it. Because I just saw them as a way that I can get away from this shitty existence and forget about my problems and go into La La Land or into these weird, wacky, strange places where I can just forget about my life for a short period of time. But I realized that the more I did this and the more I went into my own consciousness using psychedelics, the more I started to notice that these things are much more than just drugs. That I was actually starting to learn a lot about myself. I was starting to introspect and reflect more and really go into my suffering, asking myself big questions about, why am I not having a life that I want to have? At the time, one of the core pain points that I had was I didn't know anything about dating. I was super shy. And this caused me a lot of pain because I saw other people dating, I saw other people having relationships, and I just felt like a massive loser. And of course, being anxious and having a lot of insecurities at the time was just adding layers on top of the cake of having a failed dating life. So when I started taking psychedelics a lot, I realized that I really started to actually go into these thought patterns and learn more about why my dating life sucked. And I started to get some pretty good insights, realizing that, I could change this. I'm not stuck in this particular way just because that's how I'm feeling right now. I realized that through practice, through failing, through going through all of these experiences, I could actually change the way, I could actually change my dating life. I could actually have a good dating life in the future if I wanted to have it. And this was a big realization, because this opened up many doors in my life, knowing that I could change if I wanted to change, that I'm not stuck in this particular way or this particular form or this particular life. Maybe I feel like I'm stuck right now, but the mind is elastic and I could actually become whoever I wanted to logically through practice and repetition and learning skills and developing myself. So this was one of the major realizations that I had, is that I could change. And when I realized that psychedelics were actually helping me really get deeper into my consciousness and give me a lot of great insights and understandings about my problems that I didn't have any, insight or reflection on previously, this is when I started using them more frequently, and not just as a fun, trippy thing to escape reality, but actually as a way to explore my own consciousness and as a way to develop myself. So this marked the turning point when I actually started using mushrooms and psychedelics and different things as a way to help myself heal and to develop and to grow as a person. And of course, the more I had intention and the more I wanted to go into these experiences to learn and to grow, the more the experiences seemed to unfold more. Instead of just being weird, trippy patterns and different things happening and, just feeling weird as you do when you were tripping out, I started to get a lot more from each experience because I had an intention, I had a reason why I was taking these substances and going deeper into my consciousness. I began doing research on magic mushrooms and learning how to identify them, and I found out that they grow abundantly in the region, in Melbourne, Victoria, where I'm from. So as soon as I actually did some research and I learned how to do it, I took a walk. I remember taking a walk into the nature reserve behind my house one day, and pretty much the first time that I decided to look for them, I found these massive patches of magic mushrooms growing, like huge patches, hundreds and hundreds of them, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm like, holy crap. There are these entire fields of magic mushrooms, so I am going to start collecting them, and that's exactly what I did. So I ran home, I grabbed some backpacks, and I ran back into this nature reserve that was right behind my house, and I began collecting the crap out of these mushrooms, as many as I could find all around the place, and I would have bags full of magic mushrooms. So I began drying them using like a little makeshift heater and a box just to dry them out for a few hours until they were dry, so they wouldn't rot or anything like that. And I stored them, and I began using them pretty frequently, like 3 or 4 times a week, for probably, 4 or 5 months or something. So I got to one point in my life when I was like, it was a weird time of my life, but I was really going hard on magic mushrooms, just really learning as much as I could from them. And I know I can sort of draw the line here of, okay, where are you doing it where this is just an obsession and you're doing it because you're addicted to them, opposed to actually doing it for your own growth and development. And I think I was somewhere in the middle of that, because I definitely did want to do them for my own growth and development, but I guess there's another more naive side of me saying, okay, I've just got a shit ton of magic mushrooms, so I'm going to take them frequently. I'm not working that much. I'm not going to uni that much. I have some time on my hands, and I want my life to get a little bit weird. I want to pull apart my identity and, go deeper into myself. And I feel like sometimes you can't do that until you actually really start tripping balls and you start going into yourself deeper and deeper and deeper, until you start pulling off all the plating of your identity and your ego and yourself, and you start to see all the mushy stuff inside, and that's where you can actually start making some big changes, because you're sort of rewiring your brain at this point. So in this sense, I was sort of like my own science project. I wanted to experiment on myself and see what this would do. And I found out that, first off, it actually had some major benefits in my life, because by the end of this, I felt like I was quite a different person. I felt a lot of feelings that I had never felt before. I had a lot of different thoughts and ideas, and my perception of life had shifted quite a lot in that period of time that I was taking mushrooms. And I remember having experiences where I'm like, well, this is too much, I'm never doing it again, what am I doing? Or thinking that I'm losing my mind and going crazy, which maybe temporarily I was. But then, I would always come back and go back to it and say, okay, no, I'm fine, I'm going to go deeper into it this time. And it got to this point where I really I learned a lot about who I am under all these layers, which is sort of like a rabbit hole, because I feel like the more you go into yourself, the more you lose who you are, and the more you don't know who you are. That's sort of the whole point of self-development, of this personal growth journey, is believing that you are getting somewhere, but actually taking off more layers and losing yourself even further. So I felt like this was part of the phenomenon, but the more I lost myself, the more I went into myself, the more I had these experiences, the more I would, start discarding the stuff that really wasn't good for me. All of these traumas and all of these mindsets and thought patterns and things that I was holding on to that had no service to my life anymore. So this period of my life allowed me to really get into the roots of it and start taking out a lot of this junk that was embedded in my consciousness or a part of who I was at that period of my life, and removing a lot of the crap so I could actually, start developing better thought patterns and better mentalities and cultivating better feelings, more gratitude, more compassion, more love, and getting rid of things that didn't serve me, such as anger or resentment or hurt from the past. So at the start, I would write it off just as trippy experiences, but these experiences evolved into seeing full paranormal things happening or figures walking around and going into these places of states of consciousness where I didn't exist anymore. And this was something that previously I could never achieve or never get to. Every time I would take psychedelics, it would be a pretty it wouldn't be a profound experience. Like, okay, yeah, I'd have some changes in perception, I would think a little bit differently, but it wouldn't be profound necessarily. But the more I did this, the more I went deeper into my own consciousness and my own self, the more I started to experience mystical phenomena, spiritual phenomena, and stuff that I couldn't write off as just being part of the brain anymore. And this is what really started to pique my curiosity, believing that, okay, there's something more to this, where I'm actually connecting to something deeper than this reality that we can perceive right now around us, and there's a whole new world of information in these places. And the more I went into it, the more I started to experience all of this crazy phenomena, like having a Kundalini awakening, having many crazy experiences, going through portals and losing myself and seeing all sorts of spirits and entities and beings. And this really unlocked a door in me, in my consciousness, in my curiosity, because I decided to pack my bags as soon as I finished university, essentially, and travel the world indefinitely, because I wanted to explore my life more. I wanted to explore myself, and this was a message that I constantly got from the mushrooms and from other psychedelics, is that if I'm not having the life I want to have, I need to make that happen, and I actually need to do something about it. So that's exactly what I did. And it has been 8 years later now, and I'm still traveling, still working, working remotely and traveling the world. Now I have quite a deep involvement in the shamanic healing space in Latin America, so I work pretty closely with ayahuasca and these traditions. And, my understanding of plant medicines and psychedelics has just evolved tremendously, because now I see them as absolutely spiritual entities or tools or spirits, or however you want to put it. Even mushrooms. So not just these little fungi that make you trip out that you can eat. No, I absolutely perceive them as spirits. The spirit of the children, the spirits that can actually work with us and that we can tap into and perceive a new level of reality, or a entirely different level of consciousness that is beyond this material existence that we see around us. So that's the story of how magic mushrooms really started to change my life, how I used them religiously for probably a few months or so, as I was abundant in them, just finding them everywhere. And the funny thing is that after this period of my life, and I felt like I got what I needed to get from them, I could never find a magic mushroom again, ever. And I've looked many times since I've been back to Australia, and no matter where I look, no matter how ripe the season is, I could never find magic mushrooms again. So I do believe that mushrooms show up when you need them, that we have some sort of connection to them, because they do say that plant medicines show up when you need them, not when you want them. And I believe that that point in my life, I needed them. I needed their wisdom. I needed their information. I needed to go deeper into my own consciousness, so my world was abundant in them. I found them everywhere, and it was so easy. But after that, no, I can't find anything, and I'm not disappointed about it either, because, I feel like they serve the purpose for me in my life, and I hope other people who need them can find them and have beautiful experiences as well. But I do want to say that I wouldn't recommend doing this necessarily, especially taking the amount that I took, because I did take them very frequently and I took quite large doses as well, just because I was naive and I didn't really know what I was working with, and my life sucked, so I felt like this was a way to get out of that in a sense, and I had nothing to lose. That's really how I perceive it, is that at that point in my life I had nothing to lose, or I felt that I had nothing to lose. So in that case, I took a lot and I wasn't worried about the consequences that this could have. I wasn't worried about losing my mind or going into dark places or anything like that. But for some people, like I've met plenty of people who have lost their mind and have gone psychotic from using plant medicines and mushrooms and psychedelics. So I do definitely suggest caution if you are wanting to work with plant medicines in some form for your own development and your own growth, because you want to be in the right state. You want to be taking them for the right reason, and you want to have a purpose and an intention behind it, because these are spirits. We need to treat them as spirits. We can't just treat these as psychedelic substances. They are so much more than that, and when people don't give these substances due respect, and they just take massive doses for the sake of it because they want to trip out or they don't really know why, then this is where things can go wrong. And likewise, if you have a lot of trauma and a lot of shit and you aren't ready to address this, things can also go wrong because you create resistance in your mind, and this is where people can have psychotic snaps and things like that. I've seen it happen. So if you do work with magic mushrooms and these substances, I definitely suggest that you do it when you're in a state that you are ready to go into some dark places and to confront your demons, because this is what it's all about. This is how magic mushrooms can help us. They allow us to confront the darkness in ourselves and integrate. They illuminate deeper levels of our consciousness, which is the beautiful thing about them, even though it can be terrifying and it can be scary, because often we don't want these deeper levels of self to be illuminated. That's why it forms the shadow self. That's why they're always there in the background. And unless you are an incredibly integrated person and you've done a lot of shadow work and you aren't afraid to really look at the shitty side of you, or the side that's broken, or it's not functioning properly, or it's in the darkness, then it can be scary addressing these aspects of ourselves and these aspects of our consciousness. And we will feel like we are going crazy sometimes. We will feel like complete losers. We will feel like we're completely losing it. But that is part of the process. So just make sure that if you do work with these medicines moving forward, that you are aware that the experiences aren't always comfortable, and we don't necessarily take them because we want to have fun and we just want to trip out. We take them because we want to go into these dark places and figure out what the hell is going on in here. What is wrong with me? That is why we take these substances, because we want deeper clarity, deeper illumination, deeper guidance on what we can actually do to fix ourselves, or to start healing this dysfunction that we carry inside, or to let go of these things in our lives that aren't serving us anymore. With that said, thank you very much for watching this. I hope this has given you some sort of guidance and clarity on your own journey as well, because magic mushrooms has certainly done so much for me along my own journey of personal growth and development. So I hope they can serve you the same way that they serve me. And God bless you, take care, and I hope you the best journey and the best path moving forward. See you later. Have fun.